Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of Podup with Matthews in the morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm gonna go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the program. It's Podup with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Not sure if we're going to have JC with us today. Second portion of today's program will be Kyle Crooks. He will be joined by assistant softball coach Aric Thomas, who's done a tremendous job since he's joined the program a few years ago. It's maybe longer than a few years ago, but he'll break down softball plays this evening at Stetson. If you missed it last night, Gator baseball goes up to Tallahassee and wins 9-5 over the semis. It's always good to beat those guys. Had to come from behind in a midweek game, but it's always good to win the midweek games for sure. Also, if you missed it last night, if you follow the NIT at all, North Texas and Wisconsin punched their tickets. And I believe the NIT this year is not being played at Madison Square Garden. I think it's being played in Las Vegas for some reason. But I believe Vanderbilt has an opportunity tonight to go. Yeah, UAB and Vanderbilt play this evening. And then Cincinnati and Utah Valley play to fill out the Final Four for the NIT. And then obviously tomorrow we crank up the Sweet 16. And should be some good games. I'm excited to watch that. I'm interested in this Florida Atlantic game. You know, Dusty May, the former Gator assistant, has done wonders with his team, playing a Tennessee team that losing their point guard, but boy, they are just physical and they get after you. So the Vols can make a run for sure. And obviously, I think most Gator fans are rooting for Keontae Johnson and the Kansas State Wildcats. They have a tough one against Michigan State. Arkansas, they're battling UConn, which, you know, obviously the Gators play both of these teams. And when UConn came to the O'Connell Center, boy, they look like a Final Four team. So they kind of rough patched during the middle of the season, but they have the pieces to get to the Final Four. UCLA Gonzaga will be a shootout. I think they played earlier in the year. Alabama, San Diego State. A lot of people think San Diego State's a really, really bad matchup for the Crimson Tide. If Alabama doesn't knock down their shots, they will be in trouble. And then my Creighton Blue Jays, they play the Cinderella team, the Princeton Tigers. Creighton is a really good basketball team. If you watch our program, I picked them back in December to win the national title. So we shall see. I think they beat Creighton for sure. And then a really intriguing, or two more intriguing matchups. I think these are on Friday. Is Houston and the Miami Hurricanes, and Texas and Xavier. Xavier with Sean Miller coming back again has them in the Sweet 16, a team the Gators lost to as well. Boy, they can score the basketball. So Sweet 16 is in full effect on Thursday and Friday, and looking forward to it for sure. Should be a lot of fun. As I said earlier, if you missed it, Gator baseball wins 9-5 over the Seminoles up in Tallahassee. I fell asleep. I was watching the World Baseball Classic between actually Japan won. Okay. I know the Gators. I know the USA cut it 3-2, but it says right here, Ohtani strikes out Mike Trout, his teammate, for the final out. So Japan wins it. That was pretty cool to watch. I think they did a terrible job advertising it or promoting it, letting people know that the World Baseball Classic was going on. Unless you're sleeping under a rock like we are, I guess. I missed it. Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Darling Weeby, your realtor, Caldwell Banker, M.M. Parrish will provide you fast, friendly, reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. As I said, Kyle Crooks will have assistant softball coach Aric Thomas join him the second portion of today's program. For all our golf fans out there, the World Golf Championship starts today at Austin Country Club in Austin, Texas. If you're not a fan, I apologize, but you would really like this. It's match play. So it's kind of a knock, somebody gets knocked out every day. And it starts today, goes all the way through a Sunday. And it's a beautiful golf course. I'm going to go ahead and pick a few players. It's hard to do it, especially in match play. But I'm going to go with Tom Hoagie. This would be our Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. Since JC is not on for some reason, he's going to be fined. I'm going to go with Tom Hoagie. Let me write these down. Tom Hoagie. Let's see. I'm going to go. Some guys are really good match players. I'm going to go Terrell Hatton. And I'm going to pick one more. And I'm going to go with Tom Kim. He's a young guy. He should be in shape to be able to walk that many holes. So those are I got 3 T's: Tom, Terrell, and Tom. Tom Hoagie, Tom Kim, Terrell Hatton. So those are my Peachland Dental picks for the match play. Gator softball, as I said, they play tonight in Stetson down there at DeLand. I was going to look up and see who the series are this weekend, but you folks probably already know that. Let's get to the Titan MR text line. This text came in yesterday. This is from Chris. He says, Shane, we have struggled the past few years with those non-power fives, and the 4th string never gets in. He must be referring to the when I was referring to the schedule that the Gators played, about how many teams that we played out of conference that are still playing in the tournament or got bounced a couple, last week or so. No, I get it, but if we played LSU's schedule, we would have been in the tournament, probably. I mean, we had a better conference record than them, but they were like 12-0, and I think Georgia was like 11-2 in non-conference action. So anytime you do that, you play a tough one. It helps your rankings, your power rankings, your net rankings, all that stuff, but it also can keep you out of the tournament, which it did. Another text here from Billy. Billy says, Shane, what are you hearing for spring practice? Well, they just started back up. They took they did a couple of weeks or a couple of practices, took spring break. They came back into action, I believe, yesterday or maybe Monday. And I mean, like I said, I've heard great things about Graham Mertz. I think that's what everybody wants to know about. My people tell me that Graham Mertz just really, they said he lit up the scrimmage. I don't really know what that means, but some other people I talked to said he was in complete control of the offense, was extremely accurate. So we'll see. I hope he has a tremendous year. I hope he plays well in the spring game so nobody freaks out. But this team has a lot of pieces to fill, holes to fill. I think it's interesting with the new defensive coordinator, as young as he is. I don't know if Gator fans are excited about that or not. I think, they weren't real excited about Patrick Toney, but I think he's a good football coach, and obviously he's going to be coaching at the next level. I just, you got to wait and see. I mean, obviously Georgia's going to be the preseason pick to win the East for sure, and then probably Tennessee, I would think, behind them. So time will tell. And I think the Gators have a tough schedule, supposedly. I think they can win 8 or 9 games, though, quite honestly. Who knows? At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Another text on the Titan MR text line. John I don't know where John's from. These came in a couple of days ago. Shane, I saw where you called all the plays against the Vegas team the other night on the late night XFL game. Are you now the offensive coordinator? I'm not the offensive coordinator, but I am calling the plays. Last week against Vegas was I was told on Wednesday to take over the offense. We lost 35-32, missed a 3-point conversion to force the game to go into overtime. The most we'd scored up to that point in a game was like 12. So it was fun calling plays. We got a tough one this Saturday in Orlando against Seattle, and the Zucker, Ron Zook is their defensive coordinator, so I get to go up against him. So that should be fun. But yeah, calling plays is a lot of fun. We threw for a bunch of yards, scored a bunch of points, went up down the field and punted twice. So it was fun. Doesn't mean we're always going to go up and down the field, but I think we're much better, much more competitive now. And we'll see. We need to find a way to win a game. We're not as bad as our record. First couple of games were horrible, but there's a couple of teams in the league that are just like us that have one win that I think we're better than, but we found a way to lose them. And that's not a sign of a good football team. So anyway, that's what that is. Got another text here on bunch of text on here. I don't know how I missed all these. This is another text from Sam. Sam is long, and basically just says, "What are you hearing about spring football? Who is standing out? Who's going to be the leaders of this team? Who's performing well?" Not being there, it's hard to answer that, Sam. But like I said, I'll try to get some more information because I know a lot of our guys that cover them, they've been busy with other sports as well. Gymnastics is doing phenomenal this year. Baseball and softball cranked up. So spring football is just kind of what it is right now. Plus they had that break. So when you have that break in between for spring break for the kids, it's tough to get into any kind of flow or get any information. But by tomorrow's program, I'll see what I can find out for all our listeners. The NFL draft is coming up the end of this month. There's still, who's going to be the first pick. A few things that I've seen lately. Everybody thinks it's going to be C.J. Stroud, and I kind of agree with that. Either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. I still think J.C. is on record. He thinks Anthony will go to the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's going to go to the Colts, quite honestly. I saw the Colts signed a veteran backup the other day, so I think that'll be a good spot for him. And we'll see. I see something on here. A couple of weeks ago, not people, but JC and I were discussing Florida State football, and I just said they're not a team that I get real excited about. I didn't think they were that good last year. I think they only beat one or maybe two teams with a winning record. But I saw something on Twitter that someone predicts them to go 11-1 and beat Clemson in the ACC title, losing to Clemson during the regular season, but beating them. I thought they were on the same side. I don't know how they can play them. They got them winning every game but Clemson, and then winning. I'm not even going to look at that. That can't be right. So anyway, not a whole lot to talk about in the sports world. Like I said, USA loses last night in the World Baseball Classic, which it was a great setting. A lot of people from Japan were there. I thought it was interesting. The Japanese fans, they play these horns. I don't know the background of that. I don't know if maybe somebody else does. But it was very, very interesting to me. Those guys sitting up there playing those trumpets, I guess. Basketball is winding down, as is hockey. We could have gotten an update on what's going on in hockey from JC, but he is missing in action today. So in the NBA last night, the Magic win, the Hawks win, the Cavs win, Pelicans win, Kings lose to the Celtics, Boy, teams score a lot of points these days. I don't follow that closely. No defense at all. So the NBA playoffs, I assume the Celtics are the team to beat or the favorites. Have not even looked at it, but the playoffs should be starting here pretty soon. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike International Diamond Center, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Escape Apology, Visors Rooftop, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. As I said, Kyle Crooks will be taking over here shortly, and he'll have Aric Thomas, assistant softball coach for your Florida Gator softball. And they're in full force. Good. Now that they're in conference play, boy, it's going to be a grind week in and week out for them and the baseball team. So I'm still on record. Think both teams go to Omaha and Oklahoma City. It's going to be tough, though. It's going to be very, very tough. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's program. It's a short version of me. We're going to have Kyle Crooks join us. He'll have some good stuff covering Gator softball with Aric Thomas. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll have a full program for you tomorrow with Brent Beard, our college football analyst. He'll be filling us in on everything going on with spring football around the SEC. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, as I said, we'll be joined by Kyle Crooks. You're watching and listening to Podup with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
We are back live here on Matthews in the Morning. Kyle Crooks in for the second half of the show. Soon to be joined by Aric Thomas, assistant coach in charge of hitting, the outfielders, recruiting specialist for Gator softball. Busy time of year for him, so he's hustling over to get on the Zoom in just a little bit. And we'll chat some softball, we'll chat his career. What's interesting about Aric is he was teammates with Tim Walton. That's how that connection started. And they were teammates on the 94 College World Series champion team in Oklahoma. Aric was an assistant there at Oklahoma. Of course, Tim started his coaching career with Patty Gasso on the softball side, so at Oklahoma. So it's an interesting connection there that we'll dive into. They actually went to back-to-back World Series in 94, 95. We'll talk about some memories. We'll talk about this softball team, his transition from baseball to softball. He was the assistant coach at Tennessee for a few years before he came over to the softball side and was the coach there. So plenty to do. I don't know if anybody watched last night, but the World Baseball Classic, Ohtani against Trout. What a fun ending to the World Baseball Classic. You had the best on the best, and you just marvel at the fact, you compare Shohei Ohtani to Babe Ruth, but I don't think Babe Ruth was pumping it in at 102 and hitting dingers about 400 feet. But Ohtani last night threw a couple of 100-mile-per-hour fastballs past his teammate and Mike Trout, and then cuts off an 87-mile-per-hour slider. And Japan wins the World Baseball Classic, whether you're into it or not. And to be honest with you, I didn't watch it a whole lot until last night, the championship game, Japan and the United States. I know a lot of conversation was around, should they be playing it this time of year? I'm from New Jersey, so I know a lot of Mets fans, and Edwin Diaz getting hurt in a celebration, not necessarily in the actual action of it all. But he has a significant injury that puts him out for the year. For those that don't know, Edwin Diaz is the star closer for the Mets. I mean, he had a career year last year, and they're not going to have him for a team that is expected to win the NL East, expected to win a World Series this year, at least be in the conversation for that. They're not going to have their closer because of the World Baseball Classic. So just interesting with that. Of course, baseball last night against Florida State, a 5-run 8th inning. Offense just continues to be a machine. Nesbitt got the start last night. You had an interesting base running decision from Jack Caglione late in the game. Gets thrown out at third base on a initially looked to be a wild pitch that got away, but it turns into a caught stealing, and he makes the second out of the inning when the Gators are down 1 run, and pretty deflating part of that game. But then you come back, the Gators get 5 runs against Florida State. I believe the number is now Florida State has won 19 of the last, or Florida has won 19 of the last 23 in this all-time series, which is pretty crazy to be able to do that against your rival and have that dominance that they've had. And I'm sure a lot of sports would love to enjoy that sort of dominance against Florida State. Have already won a series against Miami. We know the dominance that Sully has had against Miami. So you look at the greatness that Kevin O'Sullivan has brought to Florida baseball right now, 3rd in the country, but a real significant thing is their dominance that they've had on their rivals since he's arrived. Miami and Florida State, they have dominated. And the Gators will head to Ole Miss this weekend after winning a series against Alabama to start SEC play. So it's going to be a lot of fun this season for sure. Weekend starters are there. The biggest question mark, of course, Neely pitches last night, gives them 2 really good innings. What do they have in between to bridge the gap between those weekend starters and Brandon Neely in the back end of that bullpen, who Neely looks like he could be really special. And of course, we know that there's 1st-round talent in the weekend rotation. So it is going to be a lot of fun to see how the Gators fare this weekend. Ole Miss, really good environment in Oxford, one of the best environments in college baseball. So that should be a fun 3-game series. We mentioned we're going to talk to Aric Thomas, who's the assistant coach in charge of hitting. He's a recruiting specialist for Gator softball. They have the best recruiting class coming in next year. So it's going to be even better to see where Gator softball is headed here in the coming years under Tim Walton. And we'll get a chance to talk to Aric in a little bit, but they have a busy week. Stetson is coming to they're going to Stetson tomorrow, or tonight, actually, Wednesday. I'm on the road in Greenville, South Carolina with women's basketball on the WNIT. So I'm kind of in between cities right now. And we'll talk some softball. Arkansas this weekend as well. And we welcome in the assistant coach in charge of hitting, recruiting, the outfielders, the whole deal, Aric Thomas of Florida Gators softball. Coach, can you hear me? How you doing? And I don't think Coach can hear me quite yet. So see if we can get Coach to hop in here and be able to hear my audio. Let me text Coach real quick. See if he can hear me. Meanwhile, let's knock out some ads here. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com and join us on Friday for our Peachland Dentistry JC and the QB weekend picks. So Coach can't hear me right now, so let me see if I can get him to hop back on, and maybe that'll help him. be able to hear me. So I'm doing this live on the air because that is what you do. You have to be able to run a live Zoom. So Coach can't hear me, but I guess he could see me. So we'll talk to Coach. Arkansas this weekend, very good team. They actually took 2 of 3 from Alabama in softball. So that'll be
Sorry, I didn't understand.
My Apple Watch is going off. That'll be a fun series this weekend. Alabama and Arkansas, that came down to a rubber game on Monday night, and Arkansas was able to win. Shanice Dells, they have the SEC Pitcher of the Year from last year, so that should be a lot of fun. Coach, can you hear me now by chance? You got me now? I don't think Coach can hear me quite yet. Of course. Coach, you got me? You got me? All right, he's working on it. Fans, Comfort Temp. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat and schedule your air conditioners tune up today. Keeping you chill in the Florida heat far away, Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Call us today, 352-376-2366. Coach, you got me now?
I got you.
All right. I love it. Technology, what a crazy thing. Huh? Aric Thomas, assistant coach, Gator softball. Coach, how are you, man? Great.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How you doing this morning?
This is a guy who likes hot sauce on every single breakfast item possible, any food item possible. And that's one of our long-running inside jokes, is that he just loves hot sauce and I despise it. So tell me about your love of hot sauce here, Aric. How did that start?
I grew up in Southern California. My grandma's from Mexico, so I come by it honestly, but I wouldn't say every food item.
Close.
Some food items.
Close. So let's talk about what you have going on right now. We'll talk about kind of how you got here to Florida, your transition from baseball to softball. You and Tim Walton, baseball stars at Oklahoma, teammates, part of a national championship team in the mid-90s. What's that relationship like between you and Coach Walton, and now how cool is it years later to be on the same coaching staff?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great. Like you don't, I don't know. It's just kind of weird because if you rewind the clock all the way back, we actually played against each other before we knew each other. And then we were teammates in Alaska, and we won a national championship there in the summer before we played at Oklahoma. And we were almost roommates out of the gate. At that time, they didn't let transfers. We were both JC transfers, live off campus. You had to live in the dorms your first semester there, but the coach was willing to let us do it, and at the last second he didn't end up doing it, so I ended up living by myself off campus. But and then after we got done playing, we ended up being roommates there, and then we kind of went our separate paths, and then when he started in softball, I was coaching in Oklahoma, so we were there together, and then after that, he went his way, I kind of did my thing in baseball, and he went to Wichita State before Florida, and I was at Oklahoma, and then I took a head job at a junior college, and then went back to Oklahoma, and then went to Tennessee. But it's crazy how it goes, because I probably didn't watch any college softball before he got involved coaching it. I knew some athletes when we were in college, but it wasn't, it's the same season, and you're just kind of involved in what you're doing. And then just kind of watched, just kind of watched when he was there. Obviously now, when he started, we're both coaching at the same school, and then following his path, and then just being kind of intrigued with the game, as the years went by. So yeah, it was just kind of one of those deals. And then we connected, before I came here, and it was just one of those deals. It just felt like the time was right. It was just something that, he obviously offered me an opportunity to come here. Great school, great program. I knew it would be. And then you get an opportunity to coach with somebody that that's your friend, that's your good friend, like somebody that you know and trust. And, you can have good, candid conversation, and nothing's ever personal, but just because the relationship supersedes, everything, above that. So it's really cool. It's just a really cool, day. I appreciate being in a place like Florida every day of my life, whether he was the head coach or not, but that just makes it that much better.
Can you take me through the transition between baseball to softball. And I do all the games, most of the games with Francesca Nea, who's one of the great right-handed power hitters in Gator softball history. And she always says that, and of course you deal with the hitting. She always says that a swing is a swing, no matter the sport. We get hung up on the fact that, baseball and softball and what have you. When you transition from baseball to softball, just how different is it from that perspective, from that hitting perspective, teaching perspective?
Well, I just think teaching is teaching. I think that part of it is the most important part of it. And now it's a lot more comfortable for me, obviously some years because I recruited these people that are coming. Just the relationship, number one, with the player, like that number one, to be able to teach, to me, the players got to feel like they're invested and you're invested in them. I think that's the connection that you're always looking for as a coach. I think that's probably, to be able to give tough love. You can't do it to somebody that, you don't have that type of relationship with. As far as the hitting goes, swing is a swing. Yes, I agree with that 100%. It's just the angles in softball are different. Mm-hmm. Like the rise ball is probably, one of the toughest because it's coming from down low and it's going. And if you can really get that thing to jump, I mean, obviously Gator fans know, with Elizabeth Hightower and Kelly Barnhill, like, pretty special, Kelly especially, made a lot of hitters look bad, and you get that type of velocity and that type of spin and that type of jump. It's a very difficult, and it's kind of almost like, how baseball a few years ago kind of evolved into pitchers throwing the high fastball because of spin rates and whatnot. It's an optical illusion to hitters. But in baseball, that pitch kind of holds its line a little bit better, where softball, it's actually kind of going up. So it's just a different, that from that form of it, it's a little bit different. Just because the angles are different and it's a closer, the pitcher's closer to you, but the game is like completely different. So 60-foot bases change a lot of things. I know as an outfield coach, we like to play shallow. If you watch how we play, we try to take base hits away, because I tell our outfielders all the time, you can't catch balls over the fence. If it goes over the fence, it goes over the fence. And so we don't ever really play. We'll play no doubles when we need to play no doubles, but still, even then, again, I don't want to take Kendra Falby's range away from her running back, where, she's 8 feet in front of the fence and she can't go, what I mean? And so, but in baseball, like, you're looking back to see, kind of how much distance you have, and then you can take your head off and go, because it's a lot higher and the ball goes. But the way we play, the evolution of that, we teach our outfielders, they take their head off to identify where the fence is so they can play faster. If you don't know where the fence is, there's different. Bailey Goddard's that kid that's going to run right through the fence, and she doesn't have a care in the world, and she's not going to know until she hits it. Or, most people that aren't probably as fearless as Bailey, they're going to flinch if they don't know where the fence is before they get there. And then, you see kids jump or not jump, or jump into the fence, or jump, 5 feet before the fence. And I think we do a good job of our outfielders look on those type of balls, and so they can play fast and use the fence to their defense. But it's a lot. The game is a lot different because 60-foot bases change a lot of things.
Yeah. And the sports science of it too, Aric. And obviously there's more numbers now, there's more analytics, and it's crept over from the baseball to the softball side. It's very similar in that regard. But, I've seen videos of the technology you guys use to really break down swings. Just how much is that evolved and opened up a whole world of information that you didn't have in the past in terms of trying to evaluate your hitters?
Well, I think it's really good. When you talk about breaking down your own hitters, your own people, your own personnel, being able to show like just about anything that you want, how you want. But it also makes things a little bit more difficult from a scouting perspective, because everybody else has that information in that video and that technology too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You get the good people are going to study your people too, and attack your weaknesses, and, go from there, just like what we're going to do. But I just think it is, from a player development, it's just, the resources that you have, to do things is special. But at the end of the day, you just got to remember, sometimes, everybody's different. Most, I would say most student athletes these days are visual learners. So that helps, but some aren't, and so you just got to kind of find that balance of, what to show, what to provide, because sometimes, Coach Walton will say, he's like, I don't want you thinking about the square root of 7 when you're trying to hit a ball.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a really, really good line, because you can bombard certain people and then all of a sudden they start to change things radically, and then it gets worse from there. But that is a good line. I like that. Before we get into this team, Aric, did you watch last night Ohtani against Trout in the World Baseball Classic, throwing 102 heaters up there and then snapping off an 87-mile-per-hour slider to strike out Trout? How about that?
I just don't know. We were watching that, and it's funny because now being in softball, I don't watch very much baseball anymore, like playoff baseball. Regular season, we're big Mets fans. I guess half our house is Yankee fans, half our house is Mets fans. So you may catch a little bit during the regular season, obviously highlights and stuff like that. But the World Baseball Classics had us hooked. Like we've been, hooked, especially in the bracket round. And that last night, like I actually went and picked up after we got out of here. I went to Brett's AAU practice, and I got there. I'm watching it on my phone, and he had it on, on the way back into town on the phone. And then we got inside and we watched it. And of course, that's the ending that you got. You got Shohei against Mike Trout. You couldn't have drawn it up better. But Brett will sit there and ask me, he's like, Dad, how did you hit this? And I just laugh. I go, hey, they weren't throwing 100. Those sliders now that are 91, those are fastballs. I was hitting those back then.
Yeah. Crazy. I mean, crazy the stuff he has.
They're unbelievable. And I just think that you see those athletes now, the size, the physicality, the strength, the speed, and then the pitchers, like, I mean, it's like everybody throws 100 miles an hour. This guy's not, and the guys that only throw 94, 92 to 94 are the guys that can really, really pitch, and they're dotting it here and there. But, guys are just throwing, I don't even know the guy's name. The guy the other night was throwing 96 mile an hour, like sink sliders, cutters. And I'm like, that's 96. And we're seeing it move like a foot on TV. You can only imagine what it looks like when you're standing in the box. But, those hitters are so special. You make a mistake and a guy hits it, I mean, they're just so special. And so, it was crazy. I think the two best teams played last night. And, if they would have played a 7-game series, who knows would have won, but it's a one and done. And, Japan got the hits when they needed it.
Yeah, it had a playoff feel for sure before the season has ever started. I'm interested too, before we again get to this team, but like the pacing rules now that you see in baseball, the pitch clock, and the batter's got to be ready and attentive at 8 seconds on that pitch clock. Do you ever see anything? Because I feel like softball and baseball, in terms of the game times, and softball's only 7 innings, they're getting pretty comparable now to what, in terms of the length of the game. I think softball's getting a little bit longer now because the offenses are better. So you're seeing more offense, that's for sure. Could you see softball maybe starting to adopt some of these pace of play type of rules, or maybe you see a pitch clock or certain things like that? And if so, how do you think that affects a hitter? Hitters can't go out of the – now, it doesn't happen in softball a whole lot, but baseball more. You can't go out of the box. You can't adjust your batting gloves. You can't kind of look at the coach for an extended period of time. You got to be back in that box. You think it's something we could see in softball in coming years?
Well, I think you already have the pitch timer, like the pitchers only, they kind of already have that. The thing to me that you could speed it up, is keep the hitter in the box. Like you got to keep 1 foot in the box instead of walking out. A lot of hitters walk out and walk over and walk, every now and again, if you need a timeout, fine. But like after every pitch, I don't think hitters need to step out of the box and walk around and, do. And I know, like, in today's day and age, we all have our mental cues, to hit the reset button and, the pitch preparation, whether it is the batting gloves, whether it's staring at the bat, a deep breath, whatever the case may be. Most hitters that have that have something, but I think that you can temper some of that back. I think the hard part now is the sport's getting so popular. TV, TV is what's pushing the game times over. You get TV out of it, and it'll be a lot quicker. But I mean, obviously with the dollars that are generated now, there's, that's not going to happen, and we don't want that to be the case. But I think that's a piece of the puzzle that's kind of pushing our games to a longer amount of time. But as far as pace of play, I think we're 90 seconds in between innings. We're unless it's on TV, and a pitcher's got to deliver the pitch within 20 seconds. So I just think that there's already stuff in play. I think maybe, if anything, baseball kind of took that from us.
Right.
But the one thing that we allow hitters to, get out of the box, and that probably would be the only thing right now that I could see if you wanted to speed it up.
Mm-hmm. And how about this team? So you win 2 out of 3 against Missouri. Skylar Wallace is just a gamer. The hit she had late in the game to tie it up, and then eventually comes in on the wild pitch. She just finds ways, very much like Amanda Lorenz finds ways to make plays, game-changing plays. What's it been like to work with her coming over from Alabama, had to sit out that year, and how maybe she's progressed? Her power has progressed since she's come here, for sure. 8 home runs last year. I don't know what the total number is now, maybe 5 or 6 homers this year. But how has she developed as a hitter?
Yeah, I actually think she might have 7 already this year.
7, yeah.
She's her and Amanda, you brought up Amanda, completely different, but some same characteristics. Where Amanda was a little bit easier. It was a smooth stroke, maybe one of the best hands that I've ever worked with in my life, baseball or softball. I just the smooth swing, the hit tenacity, just the feel to hit, that Amanda and Skylar's kind of not like that. Skylar's the freakish athlete that can do so much stuff, but is more, I don't want to say it's not smooth, but it's just more, she's just so competitive, relentless, and Amanda had that too, but it was a little bit more natural for Amanda. So Skylar, I always say this about Skylar, you better be ready to coach every single day, because Skylar's so competitive. When you get her, if, for example, she's hitting off a machine and she's struggling, she might be standing upside down because she can hit it when she's standing upside down. So she'll change everything or do everything to try to figure out a way to hit the machine. And you're like, wait, no, we don't want to do, we don't want to do that. But she's the ultimate competitor. If she can't figure it out, she's going to figure it out. You know what I mean? She's going to outwill you. She's going to out. And I think that shows when you see her, in that spotlight. And it's just been fun, because I think she makes you better as a coach, because you better be ready to coach her every day. And I say that a lot, and it's funny because she knows that. And I just think but that's what you want. Like, you want players to want to be coached every single day, and you want to coach. That's what we get. The games are them. Hey, you go perform, and practices is ours. And our swings evolved. It's just one of those deals that she's worked a ton. She worked a ton when she couldn't play. The year she sat out. I mean, it's not like this is new. But she was like this, and she's fun. She's a fun kid, because you have her on your team, and you got the best competitor on the field when you step out there.
I'm gonna pay some bills real quick and read this ad. If you've got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, or back that won't go away, you need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. Not surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics, with locations in Ocala and now open in Gainesville. Also, Ruse Ogra State Farm office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ugrainsurance.com or call us at 352-240-1779. Charlotte Eccles, she definitely has a pressure coming over from where she was to where she is now. And to produce, it can be pretty daunting if you're not the athlete that can deal with it. And she certainly has put up numbers since she's come here to Florida. Last year, we know the home run numbers weren't what they wanted to be, but she still drove in almost 60 runs. This year, it seems like she's getting back to maybe the Charlotte we saw a couple seasons ago. When you evaluate her, where is she at right now and her time here at Florida?
Oh, she's in a really good spot. I think, being older, kind of going through some ups and downs. It's funny because we say, about last year, you look at the numbers and the RBIs are there, but the complete picture, but she was hurt early. I don't know how many people know that or not. And the frustration of not being who you are, but the mentality doesn't allow that. So that was really hard for her. Her expectations, her, level of success that she was used to, the hand wouldn't allow it, where she was from a physical standpoint, it wouldn't allow it. And it became more of a mental grind, I think, for a while for her. And so, but she's matured a lot from it. And I think you're seeing it this year. I think it's one of those that, the way she's performing, and it's kind of like why you would say most of the time seniors are better than freshmen, because they've kind of gone through a little bit of everything. And so now, there's less panic when things don't go exactly right. There's less, duress. And it's easier to stay at a little bit of a steadier, incline rather than having the big ebbs and flows that go up and down, for some younger players at times. But I just think that she's matured a lot. She understands, at times people aren't even trying to pitch to her, where, she wants to get a hit so bad and the hand eye is so good, she can swing at a pitch 1.5 feet off the plate and still hit it. But, then you put it in play weak, you got to take your walks when the walks show up. So I think that's helped her tremendously.
And her numbers, you could see, got better in the postseason. So further away from, dealing with injury or whatever, she had a good postseason last year for sure. She has a really sweet swing. And I wanted to ask you about Amanda Lorenz and working with her. Is she probably one of the best hitters that you've had the chance to coach on either baseball or softball?
I say this all the time. My last year in baseball, I had Nick Senzel. He was the second pick in the draft, undrafted out of high school, ended up being the second pick in the draft with the Reds. And then I walk into softball and I get Amanda Lorenz, and you learn from them, and you just see, and the way the hands move to the ball and to no matter where it was, I would say, golly, I don't know who's better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Unfortunately for Amanda, Nick signed for $6 million because he's the second pick in the draft and softball's not there. But from a pure hitting standpoint, the way, they impact the ball and the way the hands move, and you can really see, when you're working with them and you can really see it and feel it. She's at the top of the list for me. You can split hair. You know how this is. You do this long enough, and they're all your kids, right? They're all your kids, and you're trying to separate. And there's some on there that people are kind of scratch their head, oh, really, that one? But no question, she's and the same thing. It was probably there's certain people where it's kind of natural, but that you don't want to take away from the work ethic and the pride and the impact, because she was a worker. I mean, Amanda's a worker, and she's kind of like what I talk about, and she's a competitor, just kind of like what I talked about with Skylar. But Amanda knew kind of what she wanted. I think Coach and I would always talk about our favorite swing of hers was when she'd hit it about 1.5 miles to right center field. And her favorite swing was that line drive into left center. She knew what she was as a hitter. That's what she wanted to do. She could have hit for more power, would have sacrificed some average, and she wasn't going to sacrifice average. She'll take the power with the average she had. But just growing into the hitter that she had, she knew when she could take some chances and do a little bit more. And, it was fun. It was fun to watch her, and she's a great person, just being around her for all those years. I think I learned, a tremendous amount about the game from her, picking her brain. And, obviously when she was on staff with us, and it was just fun to be around her.
Yeah, she was one of the greatest athletes that I had ever seen in terms of just dominating a game, perfecting your craft, the whole deal. I mean, there was nobody like her. What's interesting in your position, Coach, is that you have to almost play at times, I would assume, along with Coach Walton, the physical side of it, but also the mental side of it. You got to kind of play therapist sometimes when some players go through some slumps. What's the toughest part of that, or that aspect of being a coach, of letting somebody know, look, it's in there. We know it's in there. We got to make some tweaks here or there, not trying to avoid a hitter going into the mental slump along with the physical slump? How tough is that in your position?
I just think it's the hardest part. Like, I think it's the hardest part. It's the transition. You know, not everybody goes through it the same way. Some people are different, but I just think that's the hardest part. That's what coaching is. That's the, understanding. Some people don't understand how good they are, and you're constantly trying to convince them how good they are. Some people need, that little poke in the ribs, like, hey, let's go. Some people need that little tough love. It just depends on, who they are. And I mean, I'll phrase it like this, because I said this, and this was told to me a long time ago from, when I was in baseball, but it's the same. So you get a kid like, I don't know, Kayla Pollard, okay, freshman for us. So I saw her in her last travel ball game, and they're playing against one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country. And she goes 3 for 4, a home run, 2 double, actually 4 for 5, a home run, 2 doubles, and a single. Because I'm watching the game. It's at the end of the summer, and I'm like, in my gut, her second double, I'm like, go three, you're going to hit for a cycle, right? They end up losing 9-8, but she has 6 RBIs. But she's killing it all summer long. So now I don't know what she hit in the summer. I mean, it feels like she hit probably like 650, whatever, 550, 650. Well, now fast forward and come to Florida, and you're in the SEC, you're playing, and she's probably hitting like 330. She's having a pretty good year for a freshman. I want to say she's got a bunch of doubles, a couple home runs. But now a 320, 300, let's say, success rate, you're getting out 70% of the time. But the last softball you played, you're getting out 30% of the time. Mm-hmm. That's a huge number. And it's different. And there's more people in the stands, and the expectations of you being at Florida. And I just think that that's the part of, that's the part that we deal with as coaches. That's the part of, making them tougher, making them believe in themselves, making them understand. We go back to the film piece. When does everybody want to watch film? When they're not doing well? Well, no, watch film when you're doing well, like do more of that. But we want to harp on the negatives. And I think, the pressures of social media, the expectations that people put on themselves outside of just, that, and then obviously wearing the Gator head every day, there's an expectation with that. You signed up for this. And so I just think that's, there's so much to deal with that piece of it. But yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part. I mean, she had a horrible fall. Like, if you would have saw her in the fall, it was like, oh my gosh, what happened? What happened? I just saw you all summer. And then now, she, like, for whatever reason, she came back, but, and was a different kid when she got here in January than she was in the fall. And that's, sometimes you need that. Like, I mean, you need to do that. You need to grow from that. I know I had those type of experiences as a player, so I feel like I can relate with that. Because I struggled at Oklahoma. I know my first year, our radio guy like you probably, when I was on staff there, he's like, at March 29th, you were hitting 189. Yeah, thanks, Mike. I remember that all the time because you remind me all the time. And I was just kind of getting in my own way. And then eventually, luckily for me, I was a JC transfer, so I was older. But then I ended up having the longest hitting streak on the team. I got my average over 300 in less than a month, and had, but didn't ever forget that. Mm-hmm. Didn't ever forget that. And I think that made me a better player for the last, year plus of my career.
Yeah, it's a grind, man. It's a long season. And I remember last year, and we'll kind of end on this, Kendra Falby went through her ups and downs, and she finished 3rd in the nation in hits. And she's a different type of hitter. Of course, she can slap and just put the ball in the infield and utilize her speed. I don't know how many infield hits she has this year, what the total number is on that. But coaching a unique player like Kendra Falby, what's that like?
It's fun because she wants to be a coach too.
Yeah.
So it's fun. All the different toys that she has, from a soft slap to a hard slap to a bunt, to 5-6 hole to hit, just trying to, polish. And we really kind of, dummied it down for her last year. Coach was great. Like, I'll never forget this. She's trying to do, 10 different things. And he kind of pulled her aside and was just like, hey, okay, this is what you got to be great at this. And then we move on to the next one. And then we're great at 2. And then we move on to the next one, and kind of dummied it down, still worked on some stuff, but just kind of simplified it for her. And then now, obviously now year 2, now there's more in there, now and getting it in there. But yeah, she's a fun kid because she loves it. She loves to play. You see the energy that she brings every single day. She's always smiling, always dancing around, always kind of like that's her personality. And that was one of the things even last year, when she kind of hit that rough spell, the demeanor completely changed. It was like, and I remember I pulled her aside one day. I'm like, hey, all that dancing stuff, where did it go? And she's like, I go, where did it go? Mm-hmm. And she's like, what do you mean? I go, you're not doing any of that. That's your personality. I need that every day. I don't really care if you go 0 for 2 or if you go 4 for 4. I need that, because if I get that every day, I'm going to get more of the 3 and 4 hit days. But if I don't get that, I'm going to get more of the no hit days. And she kind of like, and I think it kind of helped her, understand, like, just be yourself, just kind of like, but you can, this game will beat you up. It'll do it, kind of doing that. You kind of brought that up about, a good one that, just moved on from us, Hannah Adams, and then it's kind of like Coach said, he told her, he goes, Hannah, you do realize you're the only one in the building that doesn't know you're an All-American. Like everybody here knows you're an All-American, except for you. And then, I think that was the conversation that led her to that next level. And then she became an All-American. I mean, but she didn't really even know, how good she was. And as good as Kendra is, I still don't even think she knows, what she is and what the peak is for her. So it's fun. Yeah. It's fun.
It's going to be an exciting season, and you're doing a great job. You look at the numbers offensively. This team is top near top in the nation in a lot of main offensive categories. And I've known Coach Thomas a long time. I've known his son Brett for a long time. He was on the AAU circuit right now, playing some hoops and doing a great job there. It's crazy. I went in a period where I hadn't seen Brett because of the pandemic, and he's like tall now, and he just looks completely different from the last time I saw him. It's crazy, Coach.
I know. He always blames me, and he's like, Dad, what? I go, no, blame me because you didn't get my speed and my jumping ability. But like, dude, you're 5'11". Like, don't blame me for the size. You outgrew my family completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I know it's crazy.
Great seeing him around the ballpark. Great seeing you around the ballpark. I won't be around softball this week because of women's hoops, but I look forward to getting back to it on a full-time basis. Aric, appreciate the time, and best of luck here moving forward, especially this week.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Have a great weekend. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's Gator assistant coach for Gator softball, Aric Thomas. That'll wrap up the show here for today. Shane will be back tomorrow to wrap up the rest of Thursday and Friday to wrap up the week. So that will do it here for the show, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.